Howdy folks, and welcome back to the channel for my regular Project Zomboid development updates. Now another Thursdoid post has been dropped, which means that I'll be breaking down everything you need to know about new features, fixes, and things to look out for in the future. This update definitely did not disappoint, so if you find some things in here you didn't know or appreciate the video, please do consider dropping it a like and subscribing to the channel. So grab your coffee and let's get into it. So the devs kick off this post by talking about the 41.77 build, which has been released on the week of this video into the unstable beta branch. This was primarily aimed at fixing the huge issues that Linux server hosting was suffering from, and so far it seems like that was a success. This update also improved client to server connections by preferring a direct connection to the server. Servers now have two ports for clients to connect to, configurable through the server options. Port 16261 is used by default to handle Steam queries, whereas now port 16262 is used to handle direct connection to the server. I'm not quite sure if this means the possibility of less desync issues with the server itself, or it might just mean faster connecting. I'd be interested to see how this plays out in actuality, and if there's anyone here with a bit more knowledge than me, feel free to drop it in the comments and explain exactly what this might do. The dev team then go on to discuss a hotfix for some other recent issues Linux servers have been having, and then go on to state that any reports of issues with the recent build are incredibly helpful to them. So any server instability issues that can be reported on their forums or on their Discord, I would encourage you to do that. Next comes a quick note focused around the last patch for build 41, which is essentially that the developers are still adding tweaks and polish to the final patch, but that it will be put out once the current network improvements are fully tested, released, and stable, which means we should see this pretty soon, all being well. There's a link to the current change list in the blog post, as well as a list of notable additions recently added, so I'll include these two links in the description of this video if you want to give those a look. And from here we get into the juicy stuff, more information and feature previews for build 42. Once again, the team haven't disappointed here. There's some very cool stuff that we finally get to see. Now one thing that I do want to emphasize here before I go on is that the team have also put into their blog post that build 42 is going to arrive a sizable amount of time after build 41 is fully wrapped up. Now that means that we could be waiting weeks or months for build 42 itself, likely the latter. There's no confirmed time from the devs, and I just wanted to sort of make it clear right now so that the expectations for what I'm about to talk about are a bit more managed. So firstly, some engine improvements. I know there's been a lot of people that are in my comments asking when performance will be improved or that they are having issues, and whilst I haven't experienced any myself, I know that a lot of you are in the same boat. A new rendering pipeline is being developed which allows entire chunks to be cached with a depth buffer, which will essentially mean a huge performance increase when it comes to rendering and scene construction. This should, with any luck, be the end of that pesky black box issue when you're waiting for the map to load, and hopefully some general improvements to frame rate whilst map areas are being loaded. The next part of the video I am absolutely buzzing for. I'm a big fan of immersion and atmosphere in video games, especially when it comes to survival titles like Project Zomboid. Now this upcoming feature is going to make a huge impact on that. The team are bringing a new light propagation system to build 42, which will allow for light to naturally leak through doors and windows, which provides a much more realistic and believable atmosphere. There's some footage running in the background at the moment of this system, and I'll continue to let that play whilst I talk about some of the other stuff coming up. What I will say here is, for those that don't think it's a major feature, think about all those cramped apartments or even just a suburban household that will be made that little bit more nerve-wracking when you step through the threshold, just to find that you can't actually see if the curtains are drawn. Flashlights are going to be a much more useful tool than they are right now, I will tell you that much. Next up, another pretty big reveal. The team are getting rid of the current 8-story high limit on chunks. Specifically, each chunk will now have its own unique height defined up to a maximum of 32 levels. Yes, that's 32. With this we could see a huge change to some of the existing map, especially in city areas, and some improvements to apartment buildings, but that isn't confirmed in this blog, it's just me speculating as to how it might affect us in the near future. Now tied in with this, the developers have also made it so that negative coordinates can be be worked into the player's location. Previously there were troubles with this, but this in theory would allow for the developers or modders to build north or west to the same extent the developers currently build to the east and south. In simple terms, this quadruples the maximum size the map could be extended to and opens a massive amount of extra land to populate should the developers want to go that way in the future. And now we come to the big ticket item of this update. Whilst all of these features listed so far are pretty huge in themselves, they are all culminating to support one thing that has been teased quite recently. For all of the post-apocalyptic preppers out there that have always wanted to live your claustrophobic dreams, this one is for you. Basements. Yes, this was teased in the past as a possibility, but the developers have now confirmed it's intended to come to Build 42, and the plan is pretty ambitious here too. The way this system works is that the developers or modders can list locations on the map that are fit for basement access. However, no basements are placed within the map itself. When this area is streamed into the world for the first time, an appropriate basement space is created in the building editor and exported as a binary file randomly selected from the list of all possible basements. This is then injected into the map as it is loaded. So what does that actually mean? Well, essentially, procedural generation of basements. Each one is randomly chosen when it first loads, meaning that it's going to be different each time you visit that same spot on a different playthrough. And I'm beyond excited for this. Whilst I'm one of the people that love the fact that the Project Zomboid map is a vast expanse that we can learn better over time, having specific areas that are generated procedurally is something I've always been an advocate for. Selective use of this feature can greatly impact the feel of the game for the player, and this is a step in that direction as far as I interpret it. Now, whilst most basements will be modest basement rooms that will have their own unique setup and lootable containers, there may be a few that are more extensive. This part in particular sounds awesome, by the way. The developers say here that players could happen upon a super rare or expansive underground complex, with the developers now having 32 levels to work with that can be distributed in any way above or below ground as required. There's very few limits here. We could see underground bunker systems, laboratories, who knows really. Either way, I'm very much looking forward to exploring the first iteration of this feature. And the developers do also mention that they can hard code some specific basement levels, so key buildings within the map could have bespoke setups that would be the same on each visit. They also make note here that players should definitely bring a flashlight, because the new light propagation system means that many of these areas will be dimly lit at best, which I'm sure will add to the atmosphere of creeping through an underground tunnel system. Lastly, the developers specifically mention that they are considering the possibility of other subsurface structures such as sewers for larger locations like Louisville. They are still researching what would be appropriate and sufficiently realistic for this, however, and it's not certain what could actually appear in Build 42 at this time in relation to these features. Now, if this is the developers seeking some form of community feedback on this, yes, I want it, and I want it now. Gimme. And that's just about it for this development update this time around, but there is one last thing. If there's any Terraria fans out there, Spiffo has now entered that world too in the Labour of Love update, which if you haven't dipped into Terraria for a while, I hear it's had a huge update, by the way, and as a big fan of that game myself, you need to go and check it out. Anyway, that's it from me in this one, but thank you very much for watching, and as always, a huge thank you to all of my existing patrons for their support as I move towards the transition to full-time content creation. You're all incredible, and I can't wait to show you our new spooky season themed wipe for the Patreon server. Links in the description if you want to join them. Thanks everyone, and I'll see you all in the next one.